All right, welcome back to College Football Addiction. I don't really know any other way to put this, and I know it's a different setting, on vacation up here in the mountains, but a pretty disastrous day for the SEC. I wouldn't, you know, we all week were questioning whether or not the SEC could get four or five teams in, and now you're looking at it and saying, okay, three is probably what we're looking at, maybe a fourth, but you're going to have a three-loss team sneaking into that four spot. The best way for that to happen, I guess, would be for A&M to go to the championship and win it. But then you're having to sneak a three-loss Georgia in. You're having to sneak a Texas team in that doesn't have any great wins. It's tough, man. The SEC really did kind of screw the pooch. Just a couple of weeks ago, we did a video talking about could 8 SEC teams finish with 2 losses. Not that 8 SEC teams could have made it because of auto bids and things like that, but we were talking about a massive logjam at the top, and like it normally does, college football works itself out. Missouri and LSU both dropped games last week that kind of eliminate them. This week, Ole Miss, Alabama, and A&M all drop games that are they were favorites. All three of them were favorites in Alabama by a lot, Ole Miss by a lot. Now A&M was a close favorite. It was a 3-point spread all week, and then got down to like a point and a half there in Jordan Hare. But you can't go down 21-0 on the road. Like that can't be your MO. That can't be the way that you try and play a football game. And so all three of them lose. A&M actually made it close. Ole Miss, you can't lose games to Kentucky and Florida in the same year. Florida, that their coach went into the year on the hot seat, and they're playing a true freshman. You can't lose to that. Ole Miss 0 for 3 in the red zone, two fourth downs they missed, and a field goal they missed. I mean, that's terrible. You just kick field goals on all three of them, you win the game. And interceptions down on the other side of the 50. Yeah, I mean, they handed that game to Florida. They were like 3 for $1 billion on third downs. Man, they were just terrible. Going into the swamp, man, when they took that 14-7 lead, it really felt like Ole Miss was going to run away with it. And then Bama didn't even show up, man. Milroe was terrible. And now we'll see what the committee does. But to me, Alabama and Ole Miss are not playoff teams. Could there be some chaos? Could there be some things that happen? This team loses to this one, and Clemson gets into the ACC but loses to South Carolina. And then I guess there's a chance, but those are not playoff teams to me. You don't lose to Vandy and Oklahoma, a 5-5 Oklahoma team, as a 2-touchdown favorite and get in. You're Ole Miss, man. You don't lose to Kentucky as a double-digit favorite. You don't lose to Florida as a double-digit favorite and make the playoffs. I understand they beat Georgia, but teams upset teams all the time, and I don't see those two as playoff teams. And then A&M, I think everybody kind of had counted A&M out anyway, thinking that they probably didn't deserve to be in. They could play their way in by going and winning the SEC championship, and they still can. To be very fair to A&M, now they're getting to the game that it seems like their coach was focused on. Great tweet by Auburn saying good luck against Texas, and then sharing the clip of his press conference. But I think Alabama and Ole Miss are out. They're certainly eliminated from the SEC championship game. Question is who can go to the SEC championship? Well, Georgia's going. They've clinched a spot in every scenario that you can run. Georgia is into the SEC championship, and the winner of Texas and Texas A&M is going to go to the SEC championship. Texas will go in just because will have one conference loss. Texas A&M goes because they win a tiebreaker against every other 2-loss team in the SEC if they win. So there is a lot riding on that game. It's a game that means a ton to both teams, and it'll mean even more because the winner goes to Atlanta for a chance to go to the playoff. Now, I'd lean Texas in that game right now just based on what we just saw this last week. Texas, handled Kentucky well enough, and Kentucky really was not a team that I thought had a great chance. The loser of the Texas A&M game is out of the playoffs, in my opinion. And there is a doomsday scenario for the SEC here. It's already bad enough. But what happens if A&M wins that game, eliminates Texas, and then A&M goes to the SEC championship and loses that with their 4th loss? And they're not getting to the playoff. Maybe they slide Texas in to a 9 or 10 seed at that point. Maybe they keep them ranked highly enough to where Texas still gets in. I don't know. I think that they'd have a pretty tough argument against some other teams that are down there in that kind of mid-range. But what if A&M wins by 14? and Texas gets dropped down pretty far, and then A&M loses the conference championship. Do you have two teams from the SEC in the playoff? You're looking at obviously Georgia and Tennessee. Now, what I think is going to happen is I think Georgia, Tennessee, and Texas will be your three teams in. Is there a chance that Alabama or someone else slides in? Is there a chance that a three-loss team gets in, or again A&M wins out, and then you get them in, so you end up getting four teams? Maybe, I don't know, maybe. But if you look at realistically what's about to happen, probably not. And that doesn't even discount the fact of what if Vandy wins this weekend? What if Vanderbilt gives Tennessee their third loss? I mean, there is an absolute doomsday scenario that's possible. Vandy played LSU really well this week. Can they play Tennessee really well this week? I'd lean Tennessee in that game for sure, but who knows, man? That's not a guaranteed win like it is most years. The SEC just kind of cannibalized themselves into missing out on a fourth playoff spot. And just a couple of days ago, we were talking about 5 or 6 playoff spots for the SEC. How many could they end up getting? Did they end up deserving it more than Indiana did, right? Indiana, a team that everybody questioned, oh, do they deserve it? Do they deserve this? What about this? What about that? And the SEC ultimately, I mean, had the perfect opportunity too. Indiana lost earlier in the day. They got blown out earlier in the day, which is what everybody said could not happen. And then every SEC game of consequence, maybe minus the Texas game, right? Texas took care of business. But then every other SEC matchup of consequence, it was upset after upset after upset. And you just, I don't know, man. And I don't think that teams are playing with I think fans care more about it than teams do, right? Fans like to beat the SEC drum. I don't think the players care. I don't think the coaches care. I think the coaches and players are doing what they need to do for their program or for their team. But man, talk about going out and just laying an absolute egg for your conference. A conference that, if anybody else with 2 losses in the other conference isn't really being considered, but a conference that you can afford to have 2 losses because of your strength of schedule and everything else, the brand, the logo, the marketing. You go out and you're only in the position you're in because of your conference, and you go out and you lay just the biggest of eggs. Ole Miss again. What are you doing? Alabama just didn't even show up. A&M, at least you fought back. But yeah, I don't know. The perception right now is that the Big Ten is the better conference. Now the SEC is probably deeper, but the perception right now is that the Big Ten has at least the best 2 teams, and Penn State struggled a little bit with Minnesota, but Penn State's got to be up there too. Indiana's got to be up there too. You got 4 teams. They have clearly defined, hey, this is where we're at. And the SEC, you wonder who is the best team in the SEC right now. Well, it's easy to say Georgia, probably Georgia and Texas. But man, if I'd asked you that a week ago, people were saying, no, I think Alabama's playing the best football in the league right now. We had Barrett on from College Football Locked and Smothered and Covered on, and he said, man, Ole Miss is probably my pick right now. They're probably playing the best football in college football. And both those teams are out now, and so you have to reshuffle. You have to redefault. Oh, well, no, it's actually this team, or no, it's actually this team. And, the SEC dealt themselves a massive blow. And again, there's a crystal clear, perfect picture scenario where they could maybe get 4 teams in. There's also a doomsday scenario where they get 1 or 2 teams in. Now, I'm not predicting that happens, but Texas loses this weekend. Vandy upsets Tennessee. What are you looking at there? You're gonna have to put a 3-loss team in, or you're sliding Texas in with no good wins because of their brand, which may happen. Very well may happen. You're running out of spots. Somebody needs to go to the playoff. You might end up with 2. Vandy beats Tennessee this week, and I think you end up with 2 teams. That's crazy. And we were talking about like 6 just a week ago. So a bad day for the SEC overall. A good day for UGA. A good day for Texas because they now, they control their own destiny. And they can probably even afford a loss because everybody else lost so much. Texas might slide in with 2 losses at this point. But let me know your thoughts down in the comments. A rough day for the SEC. But we'll talk about it this week. We'll preview a lot of these games. So if you're not already, hit the subscribe button. We appreciate you here for tuning in, checking out College Football Addiction.